With the manga now officially concluded and the final season on the way, what could be next for My Hero Academia, which is exactly what I'll be brainstorming in this video. This will be another video that isn't really scripted since I really just want to have an open discussion, which you are more than welcome to continue in the comments below. For starters, let me get some of the obvious stuff out of the way that we know is actually coming, starting with My Hero Season 8, which is coming this fall. Now, it'll likely be around 12 to 13 episodes like Season 1, given they only have 33 chapters left to adapt. And yes, I can almost guarantee you they'll be adapting Chapter 431 since it is canon, no matter what anyone on the internet wants to say about it. It is the canon ending of the manga. So get ready for a slew of bad takes on the internet yet again, because now the anime onlys will be caught up, and they'll be able to take part in the conversation, and it'll be just as insufferable as it was before. Outside of that though, it will hopefully end up being the best season yet since they've had a year to work on half of their usual amount of content, which also makes a lot of sense given what chapters they're adapting. I know Horikoshi's art like really popped off towards the end there because he knew he was getting towards the end, so he's like, all right, we're gonna go plus ultra and we're gonna finish it. So there's some stuff that I'm interested to see how they'll adapt it, just because it's like these massive attacks and like massive set pieces and stuff. So it is great that Bones is getting, for all intents and purposes, double the time, kind of. Or half the workload, however you want to look at that. So hopefully it'll be a really good season. That's coming out this fall. Very excited about that. But if you don't want to wait for the fall, My Hero Academia Vigilantes is coming out in April, which honestly I expected to come after the main series finished, but I guess it makes sense to give them some kind of overlap, because then you can start the Vigilantes hype train and the Vigilantes marketing cycle and just get that anime going while you still have people interested and intrigued in the main series. So then once the main series is over, they can immediately jump and say, hey, here's another My Hero show. You can check out Vigilantes if that's what you want to do. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be 13 or 26 episodes. I'd say it's probably a safe bet to say 13, just because that's what the main series had in its first season, and also seems to be the trend that most anime are going nowadays. You look at Kaiju number 8, Dandadan, shows like that, other shonen series that have a 12-episode first season, and then maybe a little bit longer second season, but I don't know, I guess we'll have to find out. And side note, the Vigilantes anime looks really good. I like the direction they're taking it, especially with the onomatopoeia during fights, and I think Vigilantes is the right place to do that, because even though it is set in the same universe as My Hero, it is a very different series. It's got a different tone, a different story it's trying to tell, and I think it's okay that it looks visually different from the main series, because you don't really want Vigilantes to just be more of the main series, right? Now, before people start bashing on the main series and how Vigilantes looks so much better, let's keep a few things in mind here. One, Vigilantes is not only a completely different series, like I said, but also a fresh start for Bones' newly established Bones film team, which is also entirely separate from the team working on the main series. And two, My Hero proper is an 8-season-long series that spanned almost over an entire decade, and it's had its time to have its ups and downs. And let's also not forget how incredible Season 8 looked. It's incredible to me that the My Hero fandom can go from, we are so back with Season 7 and like, this looks incredible, to Vigilantes comes out and it's like, well, I mean, the main series isn't that good. Like, Vigilantes is going to be better. So let's not do that. Let's treat these as two separate series that happen to be in the same universe. Each has their own strengths and weaknesses based on the story they're trying to tell, or just the execution of things. And I think it's okay, and that's how we should look at it. There's also, finally, I honestly can't believe it took us this long, but we are finally getting an art book from Horikoshi, which I will be picking up day one because his art is incredible, as well as some kind of art exhibition in Japan this year, I think in the summer. Aside from that, though, there's not much else, so this is where the fun begins, since we can just speculate and think about what can happen in the future and where this franchise could be going. Now, I'm going to break this up into a couple different sections, since that'll help me arrange my thoughts a bit better. First off, let me start with the one thing I think this franchise is missing: an actually good video game. Both of the My Hero 1's Justice games are fine, with a capital F. I've played both of them and bought DLC for the second one, mainly because it was my COVID game. Like, that was the game that came out, that and Animal Crossing were like my COVID games right when lockdown first happened, and they're fine. but they're really just generic fighting games, which is such a tragedy given how unique this world that Horikoshi has created is, that the best you can do is a generic fighting game, really? Personally, I'd love to see an RPG-style game like Hogwarts Legacy or Persona, and there's a couple different routes you could go. Route A, let people create their own character with their own quirk, and then choose a different path of being a hero, a villain, or a vigilante, and then kind of have the story be crafted around what path they want to go down and the choices that they make. The next option is to just go the Persona route, where you play as a preset protagonist character and progress through the story. It could be set at UA, where you're going through the hero course and working to become a hero, or could kind of be like the last option, where it's open and you can pick your path, choose wherever you want to go, and you could have the social links with all these original characters, and I'm really interested to see how you could work that in, because there's a lot of different ways it could go. You could have it be a post-time skip where Deku's the teacher, or it could be pre-anything, kind of how Hogwarts Legacy is pre all of the Harry Potter like main story. This Persona-type My Hero game could be pre the main story of My Hero, and you're just going to UA, and you still have all the teachers there. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I really just want a Persona game, but set in the My Hero universe. I think that's about what this boils down to. And either of these options would be a great opportunity for Horikoshi to do character designs on all kinds of original characters made specifically for the game. And the third option is to create an entirely new story for the game, just like they do for the movies, and then have us play through that as the main cast. Probably mainly Deku, but this kind of game could also satiate people's desire for more vigilante Deku, where he's just running around and fighting random villains. And I think that would be a really fun way to go about it, and let's be real. Any of these options are infinitely better than getting a My Hero One's Justice 3 or some Battle Royale style game like Ultra Rumble. I just want a good My Hero game, man. Now we're into the next section, spin-offs, which has a myriad of different routes, but I've narrowed it down to my personal favorites. There's a couple obvious spin-offs, like continuing to follow Deku's life as a teacher and a pro hero, or just Class 1A in general as adults, but I'll loop back around to that later because it kind of falls more in sequel territory. One I would love to see is a spin-off about each of the users of One for All, since there's 7 of them that we haven't really seen aside from being vestiges, and even though we know what their quirks are, I think it would still be cool to see their journey as holders and how they fought against One for All, or not One for All, for one, in that specific time period that they're in. I was gonna say that, like, team-up missions could continue on and just keep going perpetually, but that's over now. It's canceled. It's gone. And I imagine School Briefs, if School Briefs isn't already over, it might be. School Briefs is next. They're getting the cut. As soon as Horikoshi cut the main series, they're like, stop the presses. No more spin-offs. No more side stuff. We're done. We're done. My Hero's over. I could also see a world where Horikoshi just comes back every now and then to drop a one-shot similar to Chapter 431, where it's an update on, hey, what are these characters up to? What are they going through? Are they just doing fun hero work? Are they navigating adult lives and romantic relationships like Deku and Uraraka? Or what's going on there? Because I think Horikoshi truly does love these characters, which is why he made 431. Obviously, well, because there was also, I think, more story stuff that he wanted to finalize, but I think he truly loves and cares about these characters. So, like I said, I could see a world where he just comes back every now and then and does here's a, one-shot chapter about Bakugo and what he's up to, and here's a one-shot chapter about Todoroki and what he's doing, and then, here's an update on Uraraka and how her court counseling's going, and Deku balancing being a hero, and, that kind of stuff. And I think that's probably a more likely scenario, but again, that kind of gets into sequel territory, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now, in terms of a true spin-off, I would love to see another series like Vigilantes that's completely separate from the main series and just explores this vast world that Horikoshi created. You could tackle different concepts, you could tackle different themes, you could even have a story set in the US or Europe and see how hero society has changed in those places or how it hasn't, because maybe it didn't. Maybe, maybe it took the US a little bit longer to really jump on the train of what Deku was doing in the main series, or even like Europe has some really fancy tea drinking heroes, might be cool. I don't know. And we got a brief look at we got a brief look at the US through Star and Stripe and other moments in Season 7, but I want to see more. I want to see more of this international landscape, because it kind of got brought up in World Heroes Mission, but that was a movie. So I think it would just be fun to have a series that goes international, does something different, or even if it does take place in Japan, there's so many different narrative points you could follow that would make for a really interesting spin-off series. Before I jump into the last bit, there's one other potential that I do want to discuss, and it's honestly more of an inevitability at this point, which is more movies. My Hero already has 4 movies, which are not only good anime original stories, but were also quite successful, hence why they kept making more, because, you know, Bones likes making money. Now, there's a couple ways to go about this. The first being a mid-time skip movie that focuses on Deku parting ways with One For All and using his last embers, since that was something that we didn't get to see in the manga. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, because I do like the narrative idea and the narrative through line, and I know the shippers aren't gonna like this, but listen, I'm just stating story facts, okay? The first time Deku used One For All, it was to save Uraraka physically from something, and then the last time we ever see him use One For All is for him to go and save her emotionally. And I just think that's an incredible narrative through line and kind of like a full circle moment. So I don't know if I really want to get a full movie that's like Deku doing all of this big fighting and fighting a villain and really letting go of those embers, because I do feel like we kind of got finality and closure on that in the series, so I don't think doing a movie really makes sense. And honestly, a movie like that could focus on some rando villain trying to carry on the legacy of All For One or the League of Villains, and I'm sure Horikoshi would find a way to fit it in and make it work. Or this is another option, it could also follow the cyber war that was kind of really glossed over in the final chapter, where Gentle and La Brava did a lot of help, so could focus on that too and kind of the overarching story of how that played out. And then the second option would be, honestly, what I think is the more interesting choice, is a post-time skip movie that shows Deku balancing being a teacher and a pro hero with his friends. You know, you could really get in like a Superman approach where he's got his day job and he's just trying to focus and, you know, really be a teacher, but then duty calls and he's got to suit up in his Iron Man suit and go out and do some fighting. And I think that would be really cool. I also want this so we can see Deku using his suit more, since he's really just a couple of panels here and there in the manga, and I want to see him like really get in it, like get some action going there. I think that would be sick. I think this is also what a majority of people would want, since we've gotten a lot of content in the academia part, so now let's see the natural next step, which is being adult pro heroes. Could also, you know, just throwing this out there, could also see some more Izuocha, since that would be canon in a post-time skip movie. Now the shippers won't like that, but there's a lot of things the shippers don't like, including the series as a whole, so it doesn't really matter at this point, does it? And the third option, which is kind of unlikely, but maybe not, is just to do a whole fantasy AU movie. Horikoshi, I see you. Every time you get the opportunity, you're drawing some kind of new fantasy AU art. I know you really want to do it. I know you love the fantasy, so just cave. Let's do an entire alternate universe movie that's set in a fantasy world and go crazy. I think the fans would be there. I would be there day one. Doesn't really matter what it was about. I think it would be cool, so let's do it. Bones, make it happen. And last but not least is the most obvious thing, and that's just a straight-up sequel, something like My Hero Agency or anything along those lines. It could be a sequel following Dai and his journey to become a pro hero in this new pseudo-villainless society, or it could be a Boruto-style sequel following Deku and Uraraka's kids in a pseudo-villainless society, or kind of like I've been saying this whole video, could be Deku balancing being a pro hero and a teacher in this pseudo-villainless society. As you can see, there's a unifying theme here, that being the villain emergence rates plummeting thanks to the work that Deku did in the main story and all of the work that Uraraka's done with the court counseling, and it's something that's stated in Chapter 430 and echoed in 431 by saying that eventually heroes won't be needed because there just won't be enough villains to necessitate the number of heroes they have. So thus, the only way for a sequel or even a follow-up to work would be for Horikoshi to end up invalidating his own already perfect ending to add villains back in. Unless it was like Avatar, where the sequel is set like decades in the future and doesn't include the main cast at all, but at that point I would consider it a lot closer to a spin-off than an actual sequel. And I think this highlights just how good the original ending is, because it fills every plot hole, ties up every loose end, and actually concludes the story in a satisfying way. And to that point, I actually don't think we need or should get a sequel at all, with one exception that I'll come back to, and that's because Horikoshi finished My Hero, and he told the story that he wanted to tell. In fact, he's already said he's moved on to his next series and is in the early planning stages and drawings of it, and that's okay. The only sequel series I could see working well is a slice of life series that focuses on Deku and Uraraka as they navigate being heroes, building a relationship, and the ups and downs of life. And kind of like what I said earlier with the spin-offs, you could bring in other characters like those one-shots I was talking about where, oh, here's what Bakugo's up to, here's what Todoroki's up to, here's what Kaminari and Jiro are up to, and I think a slice of life would be really fun. It would be a very different take, very different, like, completely different genre from what the main series is, but even then, I still don't need it. Like, as much as I love My Hero, and as much as I want more content, you know, hold on, I'll move the right way. I have the whole manga back there, like, and I got volume 42 up there, and volume 1 in Japanese here. Like, clearly I love this series, but I don't feel like I need a sequel. I feel like I said, everything has been wrapped up and solidified in a way that I'm okay with the series being over, and I'm okay with Horikoshi moving on to his next project, because that's going to be great, and I'll be there day one no matter what he wants to do. If he wants to do a romance manga, which would be incredible because he has incredible artistic design, especially when it comes to female characters, or if he wanted to do a slice of life because he really clearly loves adding those elements into My Hero, or if he wanted to do a horror because he's got great artistic ability when drawing things that are really freaky and creepy, I'll be there because I like Horikoshi as an artist, as a mangaka, and I will follow him regardless of what project he does. But as for My Hero Academia, I'm okay with that being over. So yeah, that's what I think could be next for My Hero Academia, but as always, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you hope we get any of this, or do you swing in a completely different direction? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I want to give a special shout out to all of the YouTube members, since your support of the channel is what allows me to keep making videos just like this. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and drop a like so that I know to make more videos like this, because I am always down to talk about My Hero Academia. If you want to watch more, you can check out my video on how My Hero fixed its ending, or this other video that the algorithm thinks you'll want to watch. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.